Hi, it's a lipstick gal. Thanks so much for watching today. Time for another makeup declutter. It's the end of the day. I'm really tired. I had been sorting eyeshadow, because it's eyeshadow today. I was sorting forever. And I was trying to make stacks of like 9-pan palettes, 10-pan palettes, 12-pan palettes. And I was like, forget it. This is just too convoluted. We're gonna be here forever just sorting. And I think the best thing to do, I've kind of, instead of grouping it by number of pans, I decided to group it by brand. So all the ones from the same brand that I haven't already done yet are here together. Now, I have already done 2 eyeshadow declutters, and I will leave the link for you right here, as well as the description box below for the previous 2, as well as a link to my entire 2021 declutter list, because it's been brutal and there's been a lot. If you like watching people kind of organize and make hard decisions, you might at least find entertainment out of it. It's been painful to me. My pile of decluttered things keeps growing and I'm just like, oh, this is shameful. All right, so let's jump into it. I am going to start with just what's in front of me. If I'm not careful, it's all gonna go teetering. With these 3 palettes here, these are all Wet n Wild. I used to love Wet n Wild eyeshadows. And these were 2 of the ones I really enjoyed. This one here is Nude Awakening, and this one here is Comfort Zone. And I enjoyed both of these. This was like my go-to for work. I'm not gonna be able to swatch everything for you, but I loved when they did this kind of reimagined packaging where they gave you 10 shades and then they gave you some that were larger than others. I was like, yes, I love that. And this one was fun because it was kind of, you know, warm. It had some like greens and it was fun. I just have not reached for these in years. I can safely let these go. The other Wet n Wild palette that I have is actually new. It came out this year and I was hoping that the formula was going to amaze me. This is the new Color Icon 10-pan. I bought a 5-pan, I bought a 10-pan, and I didn't like either of them. I liked this 10-pan more than the other one, but I just didn't end up loving it. I was hoping that the metallics in here would be super amazing, and they're just okay. They're a little dusty. Are they pretty? Yeah. Do I have ones that perform better? Yeah. And so I feel like with the massive amounts of stuff I have, I don't feel like I need to hang on to this, even though I haven't even had it for like 6 months yet. All right, next thing in front of me, it's falling. Is all of my stuff from Viseart. So I'm just gonna start with this. I love this palette. This is the Paris Edit. I love this so much. It's beautiful. It's a rosy, cool toned. I have really been liking kind of rosy toned eyeshadows. This is gonna stay. Another one I am super in love with is this one here. This is the Paris Love Letter. I love, and it's really interesting because the shades that I wasn't really sure that I was gonna use that much are the ones that make it so interesting. And look at how these metallics just shine. I love keeping this. Next 2 I have are these 12-pan palettes. These are kind of like the original Viseart, like made for professional makeup artists. I really fell in love with these. This is the first one I ever had. This is the Neutral Matte 01. And this, believe it or not, this is my first one I ever got, and I got it in a Beautylish Lucky Bag. And I really like this. I feel like it's a super fantastic workhorse. It has all the neutrals you could ever possibly need and then some. I've been able to do my brows with that. I've been able to use that as eyeliner. I've been like all the things that you could possibly need, I have been able to do that with. This is the other one that I really liked, and I don't remember, I haven't used this in so long, but I have so much, and I think I was not sure about the metallics in here. Oh wow, they're pretty stunning. I think I might have to hang on to this, but I need to pull it out more. The last Viseart palette I have is another one that I got in a Lucky Bag. I love that Beautylish puts fabulous products like this in their Lucky Bags, but this is one I would never have picked up for myself because it's the Grand Pro 3. And it's a rainbow palette. Okay, so the quality is amazing. And there have been times, like in the spring, we'll all do kind of like a yellow eye, or I'll do kind of like a blue eye. And I'm not a blue eyeshadow wearer, but my favorite part of this is like this top row here where they're kind of dark and smoky. I love kind of more of these swampy greens, not so much these two, but this one here and this down here. And I love some of these kind of warmer tones up and through here. I don't use these guys here. I don't think I've ever used this teal, and I think I've used everything else, but I really like this palette. I just have to remind myself, even though it looks like a rainbow, there are so many options in here, and seriously, pigmentation's out of this world. This is actually a fantastic palette. So I guess I'm hanging on to all my Viseart. Am I? I am. Let's look at some Urban Decay. Do you have this? Did you used to like love this? Mine actually is in pretty good shape for being as old as it is. This was still when I was in the let's take care of our makeup and make it look absolutely pristine. So every day we open it, it's like brand new. The fact that like there's not a lot of product like in between here. Even the mirror didn't have too many fingerprints on it, and there's not a ton of fuzz on this. I used to actually take a lint roller. I know. It's silly, but I loved this. I haven't reached for it in a long time, and it does have a few rogue cat hairs on it, but I think it's time to let that one go. This one here, as you can tell, it's being held together by a hair tie, lived a different life. This is the Naked 3, and I really actually love this palette. A part of me is wondering if I need to hang on to this because I'm loving rosy tones right now. Oh, those are so pretty. You know, honestly, I don't think I'm going to use it. I have had it forever, and the last time I used it, it was so pretty. I just don't reach for it. And the reason the hair tie is on here is that I loaned it to a friend, and the closure broke, so it doesn't stay together anymore. So the hair tie is going to stay around it. All right, this is one that survived my last Makeup Declutter. This is the Naked Ultimate Basics, and it is very basic. At the time when I bought this, several years ago when it was brand new, I liked the fact that it was all matte, and I love an all matte eyeshadow palette. I feel like I have every single one of these shades in other places, and I don't need this. So I'm gonna let it go. It's kind of hard to do this. This is a Kristen Leanne collab with Urban Decay. I had another one, a 5-pan palette that was all mattes that I decluttered during my previous videos, and that one I love so much. This was the more colorful palette, and it looks like this. The one thing that I loved about it is it had these two kind of duochrome shades here, and they were just like the coolest ever. So pretty. But the truth is I haven't reached for this. So the last Urban Decay palette I have for you is the Gwen Stefani Collab palette. Oh, I loved this palette so much. I didn't really use those 3 pops of color like the gold, the pink, and the blue. And those were like what really made this palette like super fun. And I just stayed away from those, but I used the rest of it like nobody's business. They all are very similar shades. I feel like I can let this go. This was a workhorse for me when I was still going to work every day because it has so many beautiful soft neutrals in here. I use this middle row constantly with a shimmer. And I would use like a darker brown or the black to intensify the outer corner, sometimes to set my eyeliner. I really loved and used this, but I haven't reached for it in a long time. Let's talk about some Too Faced. All right, I'm gonna start with this right here. This is the Candy Johnson collab. I loved this palette. The only thing I felt like it was missing was a mirror. I like that it comes in this little packaging, like it's like a little tin of bonbons. I love that. And you know, it has this little sticker here that looks like, you know, candy. I love everything about this, even the shades on the back, super cute. I thought it was fun at the time, but I haven't reached for this in a long time. I can't remember the last time I wore this. And it is, you know, it's beautiful because the packaging is so nice, it's domed, but I don't know that I need to have this anymore. I can very safely put this in my goodbye pile. I remember these little palettes. I enjoyed these so much. I used the peanut butter one so much. Loved it, loved it, loved it. And I still even have like the little card in here that gives you like different eye looks. There's a mirror behind here. But this was kind of like my first foray into really warm neutrals before. The other neutrals I had looked very much like the Gwen Stefani palette. You know, kind of neutrals and cool neutrals, and not like the really warm neutrals. And I remember when everybody started falling down that super warm neutral eyeshadow trend, and I went there, and this was one of the first really, really intensely warm eyeshadow palettes that I got. I haven't reached for it in forever. And it doesn't smell like anything anymore. It used to smell like peanut butter, so bye-bye. I think, and this is terrible to say, I think I bought this palette because it came with a sheet of accompanying stickers, and you got to stick the stickers wherever you wanted, and I just like was like a little kid, stick them everywhere, and I did. I remember this moment in time when they had like this blue unicorn lipstick. I had it, it was fun. It didn't look good on me. They're melted matte lipsticks. I feel like they have like all of their iconic things on here. And I feel like this palette, I really got a lot of use out of these cream shades here. And you know, two are matte and one is metallic, and they're nice, but they're a little dusty now. And I used these two shades here, and I didn't really use any of the really colorful ones. And I don't know, maybe I should have, but it's not me. I can let this go. This is a Too Faced palette that I love. I've had this for a couple of years now. This is the Natural Nudes, the Born This Way palette. I love this. I have a couple of problems. I feel like these two lightest kind of flaky shades here, they're a little flaky and a little dusty. As you can see, they're a little chunky. The rest of the metallics are super pretty, and they just perform really well. The mattes are really pretty, so the other metallics look a little bit better. But those first two metallics, those coolest ones, are a little bit persnickety, but I love the mattes in here. I love that it's kind of toasty and rosy and neutral. Love, love, love. This is staying. Do you remember when everybody was going gaga for this? I don't know. I'm having mixed emotions. I haven't used it in years, but I think the reason I haven't used it is I have so much stuff. There is really no way to use it all. And I'm trying to think, if I were to sit here and like swatch out some of these shades. Those are really fun shades, really pretty. Can't decide. I'm gonna keep it. One that I know I can safely let go of is this one here. This is the Clover palette. I tried to get rid of this last time. I did a declutter and I put it in my declutter pile, and my youngest was like, save that for me, mommy, please save it for me. And I realized that it's adorable and it's super cutesy, but I don't know that we need it. It has a lot of shades that I just would never wear. So I think it's time to let this one go. I'm kind of split on this one. This is the Chocolate Gold palette because the metallics in here were so good. I don't know. I haven't put my finger in here in a long time. Maybe they're not as good as they used to be. These are beautiful. I keep this one. Man, I didn't really think I was going to keep any Too Faced, and some of their products are so good, but I feel like they've been really hit and miss recently, and I think that's one of the reasons why I'm not excited. Okay, if I don't start going faster, we're going to be here forever. I feel like I can very safely let these two guys go here. I haven't reached for this in forever, and I definitely have all these shades someplace else, so goodbye, Semi-Sweet. And the original chocolate bar, although this is one that I've had for a long time and I've gotten a lot of use out of, I just don't reach for this. And I think that it's, even though they're kind of iconic Too Faced palettes, I'd much rather hang on to the Chocolate Gold and to the Peach palette and let these guys go. I have one last Too Faced palette, and it's this. This is the Pretty Rich palette. I remember falling in love with the packaging for this collection because it looks like a little jewelry box. Like it would be like the sort of thing that a beautiful necklace would come in, and the mirror was so pretty, but truthfully, the eyeshadows are terrible. This was the first time I was ever dealing with like pressed glitters, And these, I don't even know why I'm touching these. These were the worst. The worst. They kind of look pretty, but they are a mess. They get everywhere. They don't stay where they're supposed to be. I got fallout everywhere. I could not get these off my face at the end of the night. They're very gritty. I feel like out of all the pressed glitters that I've tried, and it's not like I've tried a lot, but I've had some from different brands here and there, and I'll tell you, these are the worst texture-wise. And the rest of what's in this palette is just not even that good, and kind of regular, neutrally cool or neutrally berry tone. I don't know. It wasn't exciting. It was those glitters that made it look gorgeous. This was a total disappointment and a waste of money, and I'm glad to be able to say goodbye. Let's talk about a little Anastasia Beverly Hills. I have really enjoyed the ABH formula for a long time, and the first palette I ever got from them, of course, was Modern Renaissance. Now, I know this is an iconic palette for so many people. I just don't use it. And the reason I don't use it is all the reasons people really loved it is like these tones over here, like Red Ochre, Venetian Red, Love Letter, all of those. I always ended up in this half of the palette, and I feel like it's really sad to say that like one of their most iconic palettes is kind of like a nah for me. It's just not my style. Even though I'm kind of wearing a little bit of burgundy eyeshadow today, I think I'm gonna let this go. So the next ABH palette that I bought, I totally love, and I still love today. It's the Norvina, the original Norvina. This is one of the few palettes where there is actual pan, like I hit pan. And the metallics in here are absolutely gorgeously insane. I love these, and it's the sort of interesting color story. I know nowadays it's not really that big a deal, but I love this, and this was my first time that I felt like I went out of my comfort zone to buy kind of a palette that had purples and pinks. And I know it's not that pink and it's not that purple, but for me at the time it was. I really love this palette. I'm keeping this one. So after I fell in love with the Norvina palette, I was picking up palettes left, right, and center. The next one that I got was this, the Sultry Palette. I love this. And I know they don't make this anymore, but I'm not getting rid of this. This has some of the most glorious metallics. Like, oh my goodness, it's so beautiful. And I like that it leans a little bit cool. I like that so much. I mean, there are some, you know, warmer shades over here, but it's a really fun palette to use when you're looking for kind of grungy, cooler tones. I really, really like this one. So if the Modern Renaissance was a palette that everyone loved, but was really not my color story, the one that really is the Soft Glam. This came to me in a Beautylish Lucky Bag, and I love it so much. I feel like this is just the right amount of, you know, warm without being too much. You can go super warm with this, but I tend to stick more kind of like in these shades. I don't always pull in this one, although this mulberry shade is beautiful. I don't know, maybe I should pull this one out for fall. It just screams fall to me, and play with this one a little bit more. I love this one a lot. Apparently I really like my ABH palettes. The last one I have is probably my favorite one, and it's the Jackie Aina palette. Oh my goodness. I love this so much. This is another one that's really, really great for fall. I am not gonna lie, I've never used the purples in here. I haven't. I don't. They're so pretty, but they are something I am not terribly comfortable with. But some of my favorite shades in here is this kind of duochrome green one here. This one's called Sponsored. I love Lituation, and I love Doualas. I don't even know if I'm saying that right, but these are so much fun. And then you pair those with any of these kind of warmer dark colors down here, or this really bright kind of coppery shade. This is Wiggley's. Oh my goodness. I love, 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 love. I need to pull this out again. And I think a lot of this is, I have so much really good stuff, I just forget what I have. Shame. I have these two palettes from Bad Habit. These were both dupes of Natasha Denona palettes. This was supposed to dupe the Star palette. I haven't used this in forever. I'm gonna let that go. And this was supposed to dupe, which one was it? The Lila palette? I don't remember, but it's one of those. And I don't use either of these. These can both go. I have 2 palettes from Makeup Revolution. I love Emily Noel with my whole heart. I so love Emily, but I don't use either of these. And I know she very carefully crafted like all the shades in here, and they're really pretty. I just don't reach for it. I don't like palettes that are this size. And this one I used quite a bit more, but I'll tell you, even though I liked it more because it had the everyday basics in it, I just haven't reached for it in a while. And I feel like since I have both of these and I haven't reached for them, might as well let somebody else enjoy them for me. I have 3 palettes from Juvia's Place. I used to have more, but I apparently have decluttered some of them. This one here is the Deuce. I don't know why I picked this up, because like these shades are definitely not me shades, but they're really beautiful. My favorite one in here I don't actually use ever. It's this kind of minty one here. This one's called Mont Blanc. I can safely get rid of this. It's a fun palette. It's just not one I ever reached for. This was the one that kind of started it all for me. This is the Nubian, and this is fabulous. But these warm neutrals are ones I have in other places. Despite the fact that they swatch beautifully, I think I can let this go. I feel like I have most of these shades from Sydney Grace, and I feel like I prefer the Sydney Grace formula over the Juvia's. Juvia's Place is amazing, but I can't have like 12 palettes of warm neutrals. I haven't reached for that one in a long time. The last one I have is one that I'm not sure about. This is the Nubian 3, the Coral palette. The metallics in here are insane. And my favorite thing about it is that it has a really neat set of cool toned, really foiled metallic-y silvers in here and grays. I think this could be fun to play with. I think I might hang on to that. I think these are the 5 eyeshadow palettes that I have, the pre-made palettes from Sydney Grace. I love these. This is the new one for this year. This is the Coffee Talk palette. I love this so much. I like that it's more neutral and cool leaning than warm leaning. Both of these are last year palettes during their Christmas and July sale. The Summer Days is the one I use the most. I love this. It leans a little bit more berry toned, and it pulls a little kind of warmy pink, and I love that. This is one that I probably use the least. This is the Chase Your Dreams palette because it's more of a sunrise or sunset sort of eyeshadow palette. The colors are beautiful. The formulation is beautiful. I just don't reach for shades like this. Part of me feels like I should let this go, but it's Sydney Grace, and I love Sydney Grace, and I don't think it's physically possible for me to do. This is my favorite Sydney Grace palette. I love, love, love it so much. This is the Enduring Love palette. This is the light version. They also have a deep version for people with richer skin tones, and I love that they think about that, because some of these, you know, lighter shades like these guys right in through here are just not gonna cut it for everyone. And I love that they do 2 versions. They do the same thing for the Coffee Talk, and they do the same thing for the Summer Days palette. Love that. This is one of my all-time fave palettes, and just so you can see, it's just some of the most gorgeous metallics ever made. Not going anywhere. So the last Sydney Grace palette I have is this one. This is the Tiny Marvels palette, and it was a collab with Mel Thompson. I was so brokenhearted when I heard that she had passed, and she's gonna be missed, but this palette is just sheer perfection. I love the way that it incorporates pastel colors, really gorgeous, super amazing, you know, sorts of duochrome metallic shades. They're just like this one here. This is their shade Red Chameleon, but in this palette it's called Scarab. It's just utter perfection. It's just so gorgeous. I love this palette. Also, not going anywhere. My hands are getting so shimmery. I'm attention to all the makeup. All right, let's soldier on here. I used to have a full-fledged love affair with Lorac shadows, and it all started with this right here. This is the original Pro palette, and it is such a fantastic palette. I haven't used it in such a long time. I think it's probably safe to say that I can let this go. But this is one of those palettes that was, I remember watching Michelle Phan use this to do looks with Such a great palette. After I fell in love with that palette, I don't know what happened to it. I might have already got rid of it. I remember the Pro 2. I think that might have been a declutter in my previous, but I still do have 3 of the Mega Pros. None of which I have used since my last declutter, I think in 2019, and they've just been hanging around. So this one here is the Mega Pro 3. It definitely tends to lean a little bit more warm neutral. I haven't used it. I definitely let someone else love that one for me. This is the Mega Pro 4. This one I really had super high hopes for, and I like that it's a mixture of light, cool, and neutral shades. You've got some blues, you've got some greens. I just never really reached for it. It's super pretty, but I haven't touched it in forever. I think the one that I liked the most was the Mega Pro 2. I never got the 1. That one was super elusive and hard to get, but I loved this one because it had some beautiful warm mattes. It had some nice cooler mattes, and the metallics down here, man, they just call to me. But yeah, I haven't reached for any of these Lorac palettes. I know that the formula has changed. They've revamped the formula. There are some new palettes out, and the pans are not this kind of small square shape. They're different. They're a little bit larger, and I would be interested to try them, but I think I can let all 4 of these go. Let's talk about the balm. You know, I love the balm makeup, and I have for a long time, but I realized I haven't really been using it. This is one that I hung on to. I remember when I had Nude Tude. This is Nude Dude. I think the Nude Tude was all the little like naked ladies. This is the little naked men. I haven't used this in forever. This one can go, and now it gets hard because the first palette I ever got from the balm was this one. This is the Rockstar palette, the Balm Jovi. I always love how clever they are in their names, and I got this palette because Emily Noel said it was amazing, and it was amazing. And it had the Mary Luminizer in here. It had the blush that I love so much, and I used it like a ton. Like this Adagio shade has a serious divot in it, as does Allegro and Blink 182. Oh my goodness, so many of these. Like Third Eye Blinded is also like a serious divot in there. I use this so much, and this is like the one thing that I probably would keep for nostalgia purposes, not because I would ever use it again, because this is so old. I'd probably get some sort of an infection. This is officially the one palette I will keep for just pure nostalgia, because this has so many good memories. This is an old palette, but I don't know if I can let it go. All right, I'm holding on to it for the wrong reasons, but I am gonna hold on to it. All right, now it gets really hard because I love this palette, the Meat Matchmaker. Love. And this is one of those that I really like to use when I want a really fast, super easy look, because they come in duos, a matte and a shimmer, and they're just so beautiful. My favorite is like kind of like this olivey and brown. I love this one too. I also really like this rosy toned pink one. I think I'm gonna hang on to this because if I have it someplace where it's easy to reach for, this is one of those when you don't have a ton of time and you need a really quick eyeshadow look, you can reach into this and boom. I think I'm gonna hang on to this. I used to have more of these Meat Matte palettes. I had the Matte Adore palette. I love the Matrimony and the original Meat Matte Nude. Oh, this is a great palette, but I just haven't used it. It's time to let it go, but I like that it has a lot of cool tones, a lot of grays. It's a really, really great palette. I don't even know if they still make this. And then I like the Matrimony palette because it was more rosy, but again, all matte. I think I had the Matador. I have the Matchmaker. I'm gonna let these guys go. Oh, but I loved these. I haven't used them. Gotta let them go. The last balm palette I have is this one, and this one is fantastic. This is In the Balm of Your Hand, Volume 2. I wish I had Volume 1, but this has everything I could possibly want. So I've got like 4 amazing shadows. This here is their Highlight Mary Luminizer. I decluttered my full-size Mary Luminizer, but I like knowing that it's in here. And then some of my favorite blushes, the In-Stain blush, loved so much. I love Frat Boy. I decluttered my full-size Frat Boy. And then it has Down Boy and Bahama Mama. So this is one I'm gonna hang on to. This is one where if I need to get like eyes and cheeks done super quick, I have everything I need right here. Oh my goodness, there's so much Colourpop. All right, I'm gonna start with these larger size palettes here. I have 2 of these 30 pan palettes. This is the Bare Necessities. She's so pretty, but your girl hasn't used her. I picked this up in late 2019. And I think the reason that I haven't used it is just because I am not a fan of large size palettes, and using something this big kind of stresses me out. I start out with like 4 or 5 shades, and the next thing I know I have 12 shades, and then it's like 1 more, and then it's a very muddled look. So I think I need to let this go. It's a great palette, and I like the neutral options it has for you. It's just not one that I reach for. Another one that I don't reach for that I love so much because I love the collaborator. I love Kathleen Lights. She just makes me happy. And I've bought so many of her Colourpop collabs, almost every single one that she's come out with. So this So Jaded was a ton of fun, but I just haven't reached for it. I reached for it a lot when I first got it, but since then, no. All right, speaking of Kathleen Lights collabs, I have the Zodiac. And about this because it was a Kathleen collab. Not because I was ever going to use these shades. I have used some of them, but I haven't used this in a couple of years. I can let that go. This is one that I loved, and I used it enough. I got like other makeup on it. This is the Dream Street, and this is one that I feel like would be difficult for me to let go because so many of the shades in here are just right up my alley. But I haven't used it. Oh, I think I'm gonna let that one go. That's kind of hard. That one is, the Zodiac wasn't hard, that one's hard. I haven't seen this one in a long time. This is the California Love. Mine looks pretty pristine. Did I ever really use this? It does have a pressed glitter. My fingers are a disaster. I apologize. I haven't been to wash my hands and I got stuff everywhere. I don't know. I remember really loving this palette, but I haven't reached for it. Goodbye. This is one that I really, really lusted after for a long time. And then once I bought it, I didn't use it more than a handful of times. And this is the Salvage Palette from Becky G as a collab with her. And I loved it because it had like these warm tones here. I also really loved, like, all of the shades in here are super pretty, but I haven't really used it. Goodbye. Oh, Colourpop. It's going to be rough being Colourpop today. I loved this palette when I first got it. This is the It's a Princess thing. It's the Disney collab. The first one they did, if I recall correctly. And my favorite shades were these shades down here in this bottom corner, especially this kind of magenta-y one here called Bad Apple. No, Poison Apple. I don't know. This might be one. Oh, man, but they feel so chalky. Like, I feel like they kind of disappear when you just kind of blend them in a little bit. They kind of, I wonder if they've turned. You know, I think I'm going to let this go. And it's not because I don't love it, because I love all the shades in here, but it feels very powdery. I feel like it's past its use by date and that it doesn't have the same feeling that it used to. Oh, that one's really sad because I love that one so much. I used it a ton. All right. This is the Makeup by Shayla and Colourpop collab, the Perception palette. I really liked this palette. I really wanted to love, especially some of these kind of grungier, cooler shades. I just didn't reach for it. I lived kind of more like on these first 2 lines over here and I didn't get to the other side. I haven't reached for this in years. I can safely let that go. This is one they don't make any, like a lot of these they don't make anymore, but this is one I remember loving because it was the first cool toned palette that they ever made. I'm not going to use it. I'm going to let it go. Dude, I bought so much Colourpop and it's all going out the door. Have I kept any yet? No. All right, this was a total mistake. I don't know why I thought I needed a red eyeshadow palette because your girl does not wear red. This Main Squeeze palette, although it is super fun, is not for me, and I can let this one go. I think I used it 3 times total. I wanted to wear it, I just didn't know how. And I'm okay not having figured it out. I love this palette. My problem with this palette is I don't wear blues. I really love this shade right here. It's the lightest one in the palette. It's called Luminous. It's a beautiful kind of duochrome shade. Oh, I love it so much. But I am not gonna keep a whole palette just for one shade. No, the more I swatch it, the more I'm trying to talk myself into it. I haven't used it in years. Goodbye, goodbye. Here's another one that was a bit of a mystery as to why I purchased it. Why was I buying a yellow palette? I did wear it more often than I did the red palette, but this also has one of those not good for your eyeballs pressed glitters in here. The mattes in here is what really drew me in. The metallics are pretty, but it's the mattes that make me go, yes. But I don't really wear yellow. That was a bad choice on my part. I really enjoyed this palette, the It's My Pleasure palette. And I think I like it so much because it has a wide variety of options. My favorite 2 shades in here are these super metallic shades. This one is called Mr. Sandman, and this one here is Earthshine. And I would keep it just for these 2 shades. I think I am gonna keep this. Is this the first Colourpop I'm keeping? What? Oh my goodness, it's been so brutal for Colourpop. But I'm gonna keep the It's My Pleasure because if I'm gonna use a purple palette, it's gonna be this one. The last Colourpop palette I have is the Going Coconuts. Now, you know me as being a person who loves their neutral eyeshadows, and this palette is nothing but neutrals. And I really think it's a beautiful palette, but this is one I actually use. If I didn't have like a million other neutral palettes, I think it's safe to let the bare necessities go with a really big neutral palette because this is gonna put me, you know, right where I wanna be, and it has beautiful shades. I think I'm gonna keep those 2. Oh, Colourpop. I feel kind of bad. Did we just break up? That's a lot. Dude. And although these guys were fun, it's a lot of dead weight I'm not using, and I don't want to hang on to it for that reason. I'm so sorry. It's me, not you. Let's do these rapid fire because I am down to just the ones where I have one from each brand. So this is the original Jaclyn Hill palette. This is the one that, like, if you bought it the first time it was released, this is that first formula before they changed the formula. And I don't use it. And I know so many people love this palette, and then when they repurchase it because they've run through it, the formula's not the same. This is the original one where everything is like beautiful and gorgeous, and it is, but I just don't use it. So I know for sure, there is somebody in my life, you know, spray a little alcohol, disinfect it, and pass it on to someone who's gonna love it for me. I've had this for quite a while, almost 1.5 years now. This came in one of my last BoxyCharm, the Boxy Luxe, and this is the Tarteist Pro Palette. I thought the mattes in here were actually really pretty, but if I'm looking at them, more than half of them have not been touched. I haven't used this. I'm gonna pass it on to somebody else. I'm not saying that it's not good, I'm just saying I haven't used it. Another one that came in BoxyCharm is this Violet Voss Pro, the Holy Grail palette. I love. Now this is one where it is all warm neutrals, and I'm gonna keep this one because you can do so many different things with this. It's super pretty, and I feel like there is a space in my palette collection for this, but not all other warm neutral palettes. I feel like that one's just different enough, and the quality is amazing. So I really enjoyed this palette when I first got it. This is the iconic London Day to Slay. My cat, great kitty that she is, knocked it off of the desk here, and then the mirror broke, so I had to cut the mirror out. But I really like the shades in here. I just haven't used it in forever. I think that it's safe to let this one go. I remember loving this palette so much, but I haven't reached for it. And I don't know if I didn't reach for it because I have these shades everywhere else, or whether it was because there was too much and I forgot it. Now, my least favorite is the sequin shades, and I know that Tati really loves these. The reason I don't like them, I don't really like mattes that have like metallics mixed into them. They're really pretty, but I could never get the sparkles to stay on my eyes. And I tried every single thing that she mentions, and I don't know. These are the only pressed glitters that I will use on my eyes, and they're very similar to the Colourpop formula because they're made by the same company. This is a Seed Beauty brand, but I'll tell you, I think for now I'm gonna hang on to this palette. But I don't know. I don't know if it's wise to hang on to it, and now I gotta find a way to get all the glitter off. Shouldn't have stuck my finger in there, but they're so pretty. They're so pretty. I love them every time I see them. I always touch them and then I regret it because then there's glitter everywhere for days. I have saved this for such a long time. This is the KVD Matte Metal Palette. I love this when it came out, but I never really put it to good use. I know this is one of those kind of elusive palettes that so many people want to get their hands on, and I'm sure somebody could love that for me. I'm not going to keep that. This is one that I actually used quite a lot. This is the Ciate London, the Pretty palette. And you'll see why I used it a lot. It had some cool tones, it had some warm tones, and a lot of really easy neutrals. I used this a lot when I was going to work daily, working in an office, but I don't feel like I still have a place for this in my collection. This is one that I have always loved. This is the Icon palette from Charlotte Tilbury. This was her holiday palette from, I don't know, 4 years ago. I love, and I love that I think almost every shade in here is metallic, but what I love about this is that they're not so sparkly and so shimmery that when you put them on your eye, they make your, well, they make my older aging eyelids look really like crepey and ugly. I love the formulation of Charlotte eyeshadow, so I'm gonna hang on to this. I really wanted to love this. This is the Jouer Metamorphosis Face and Eye Palette. The only thing I like out of here is this highlight. And I really shouldn't keep something just for a highlight because the eyeshadows were terrible. And I don't wear blush this shade. It is just too pink. So that's gotta go. This is a palette that came in the Blockbuster set from Lancome in 2019. I thought it was actually a really good set. I like the packaging. It's sparkly, it's pretty, it has a nice mirror in here. I thought that these shades were really pretty. They had 2 different shades of the palette. I got the cooler one. I thought it was really pretty. I just haven't reached for it. I felt like the quality was better than I expected in one of those holiday train cases, but I didn't love it. This, although it's so much fun, this is the Beauty Creations Cali Chic. This came in a boxy charm, and I loved the metallics in here. They're so pretty, like super pretty. I just don't reach for it. And I have those warm neutrals someplace else. I don't need it here. Do you remember this? This is the Manny MUA collab with Makeup Geek from many, many, many moons ago. I don't know. This is kind of like a rare bird. Like you can't really get your hands on this anymore. Oh, and it's still gorgeous. Oh, do I keep it? I might just keep it, but I should use it if I'm gonna keep it. I promise to use it. I really like this when I got it. This is the BH Cosmetics Beautiful in Barcelona. I have never tried BH Cosmetics shadows before this, and I really love this. This has a beautiful, absolutely glorious formulation, and it is just spectacular. I love, it has warm neutrals, it has cool tones. It really does remind me, and I've spent a lot of time in Spain. I lived in Spain for 3 years. Even though I don't wear blues, the blues in here make me super happy, especially like this kind of greeny blue and this kind of more like metallic navy. I use them as eyeliner or just lightly tapped over, kind of like a warm neutral. And I love this palette. I'm gonna hang on to this. It's so good. I tried Odin's Eye for the first time this year, and this is the Alva palette. And I love this. My favorite shade in here is this lilac shade. Boy, I pressed it down so hard. It's a really pretty duochrome shade. The rest of the metallics in here are just outstanding. I love this. I'm keeping this, but I want to keep it someplace where I can easily find it and see it and use it. So the Metropolis palette from Natasha Denona was from a couple years ago, holidays, 2-3 years ago, I don't even remember. I really like this palette. This is the warm neutrals that I reach for. I like that it has some kind of like grungy greens in here. I love that it runs the gamut of like, you know, kind of a red. It has some blues, but the warm rusty tones just scream fall to me, and I reach for this every single fall. I'm gonna hang on to this. The Dose of Colors Friendcation palette from Desi and Katie. Oh, I love so much. I can't let this go, but it's these metallic shades in here that are just insane. Let me look at that. Makes me want to go, ah. I know that's not healthy, but aren't they just beautiful? Love. Love, love, love. And the last one I'm keeping is the Mothership. What is this? Sublime, I don't know what. But it has the kind of beetle green in there. I used this for the first time in years when I got the new Artistry wand from Pat McGrath. It actually helps to keep things adhered to your eyes. I'm using it today so that I don't have sparkle like down here. I really like it, and I feel like I'm going to successfully be able to use these more topper shimmer shades here now that I have that Artistry wand, because I used to end up with like green sparkle below my eye or like duochrome shifts like everywhere, and I didn't love that. I just didn't know how to get it to stay where I wanted it. So I'm going to hang on to this and get a lot of use out of it. I'm going to tally up how many I'm getting rid of, how many I'm keeping, and I'll be right back. There's a lot of eyeshadow. I didn't count beforehand because I just couldn't bring myself to do that. There was 83 palettes. 83 palettes. I don't know how I ended up with that many. And that's not even my entire collection because I've already decluttered the smaller ones. And if you want to see those declutters, because they're much shorter than this one, you'll find them in the description box down below. But let me tell you, oh my goodness, out of 83, I am getting rid of 51. 51 eyeshadow palettes. That's almost like a different eyeshadow palette every week of the year. Almost, not quite. And I'm keeping 32. And I feel like the 32 that I'm keeping are the ones that I am the most likely to use. Now, nobody needs 32 eyeshadow palettes, but these are the ones that I reach for and that I think that I might reach for when everything else that's been kind of sitting in my drawer collecting dust is out of the way and I can see it and be inspired by it. That's really my hope, is that your collection never gets out of hand, because mine obviously did. And I don't want to keep stuff around just because I paid for it, especially when it goes bad. It goes bad so quickly. I want to keep what makes me happy, what brings me joy, what I'm likely to use, and what is still in good condition, because there's a lot of stuff here that I loved that just isn't in good condition anymore. So don't do what I do. Don't over purchase. I say it all the time. I need to be more mindful, and maybe I'm saying it out loud so that I can have it go from here to here. I say it, I hear it, I do it. Cross your fingers that that'll be me in the future. Thank you so much for watching today. I would love to know if you have a makeup Achilles heel. Obviously, eyeshadow is one of mine. I love eyeshadow and I over purchase. Or do you always end up with a similar lipstick shade? Do you always end up on the hunt for the perfect concealer? What is the one product that you've bought multiples of, always hoping for like the next best thing? Or if you, like me, have a lot of eyeshadow palettes, do you always end up with similar finishes? Do you like duochromes? Do you always go for the same color star? I've got a ton of neutral eyeshadows, but I'm kind of a neutral eyeshadow kind of gal. Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you for watching. Have an incredible day, and I will see you again soon.